So we looked at creating a gradient mesh through the menu by saying Object, Create a Gradient Mesh. Next, let's look at how we can make our own custom gradient mesh. We'll delete that and start over with a circle. And let's find a prettier color. Let's do yellow this time. Okay, so now we have this pretty yellow circle. Instead of making just a grid in our circle, what we can do is use this tool called the Gradient Mesh tool. The Mesh tool allows you to come out here and choose where your column and row is going to go. So if I want to have a nice highlight right here on my circle, I can just click and it's going to add a row and a column. And if I fill that now with white, notice how the color spreads out. On this side, not quite so far. On this side, it spreads out very far. And if I deselect it, that's kind of how the color goes. So it looks like it's been hit by light from a particular color. Now, the color spread out so far because I only have one row and one column. But what if you need to have more control over your color? So let's step back a little bit. If I come out with my mesh tool and I put my anchor point here, I don't want my color spread out so far, so what I need to do is trap my color. So by using my mesh tool, I can choose how far I want that color to go. Now remember, the color is going to go halfway to the next place you put your anchor point. So if I click here and put an anchor point, the color is going to go out to about here. So you can think about the spacing. And if I want to have a very small little highlight here, then I need to trap it on both sides. So here's my original anchor point. I'm also going to put another trap on this other side by clicking here. So now if I come back in with my direct selection tool and select this anchor point in the middle and I add white to it, notice how that color is really trapped by the walls that I put around it. And so I have a very small piece of color in my gradient mesh. So that's kind of fun. The next thing I want to show you is how you could also make stripes this way. So I'm going to put in a couple of more anchor points, being careful to make sure I get them right on this row so that I'm not adding a whole bunch of extra rows that will mess up my color. And let's put that back with yellow in it. So, and then I'll make one more here. Okay, if I want this thing to be a whole stripe or a whole row of color, what I need to do is select all of these anchor points. And a really easy way to do that is to use this lasso tool. So the lasso tool in Illustrator is a way of selecting anchor points. I'm just going to click and drag a little circle around all of the anchor points that I want to select. You don't have to be super cool, but do take a look at it when you get done to make sure that you've got the points you want. Now if I change the color for this, notice I've filled in all those anchor points and I've been able to create a stripe. So then I could use my lasso to select the next section and I could put another color in there. But before I do, let's think for a minute. What's going to happen if I put color here? How far across do you think the color will go? Well, it should go halfway until the next boundary. So let's go ahead and put the color on. And notice it blends all the way across until it comes to the next side. So actually it went a little farther than I expected. I thought it might go about here. But notice it's a blend and it goes all the way over to the other side. If I wanted to tighten this up, I have two options. I could start out by having a dam, and then I want to carefully add another anchor point somewhere in the middle. And I want to make sure I'm right on top of the path that I already have so that I don't create an extra row. And now I have a dam, and let me go back to the original color. Now I'll use my lasso tool to select this column. And when I add my blue, notice now the blue is more contained. It spreads out farther than the pink because this is farther away from the initial selection. And so see how you can plan ahead and control your color. So when you have shapes and you need to have colors that kind of mesh together. This is used a lot in medical illustrations where you have a shape but the color really varies a lot within that particular shape. Then sometimes gradient mesh is a wonderful tool to use to maintain the integrity of the shape but get the color exactly where you want it to go.